Hello lovely people. Today I have a tag for you. This is the I'm so annoyed tag, which was created by Kelly from Books I'm Not Reading, inspired by a video from Melinda from A Web of Stories, and I've been tagged to do this video by Fred from the channel Read by Fred. I will link all of the channels below. So the first question is, do publishers ever do things that you find annoying? Share an example. Yeah, there are definitely a few things that publishers do that I find annoying. The main one that comes to mind is misleading marketing. In a previous video, I talked about a French book that I read thinking it was an autobiography about a period from the life of the author in particular, when in reality the book was more of an autofiction, which is not the same thing as an autobiography. And also the part I was specifically interested in was only maybe like 15 pages of the whole book. So I was pretty disappointed when I read like almost 300 pages for only less than 20 pages that I was actually interested in. And that was all because of the summary at the back of the book, which was entirely misleading and really putting the spotlight on that bit I was interested about and not really giving a fair representation of the whole of the book. So that's definitely one thing I found really annoying. Another one is when a book has clearly not been properly proofread and there are a lot of typos and errors. I do find that quite annoying because I expect the book that I buy to be good quality. And finally, the third one that comes to mind would be just very poor layout, meaning a very tiny font, very slim margins. I don't really like when the text is really crammed onto the page, and I think it just makes for a terrible reading experience. I also remember hearing about the text on the page being the part of the author, but the margins around it, the white on the page being the part of the reader. And I really enjoy that. So when a book doesn't really leave that space for the reader, I do find that a bit annoying. The second question is, have you ever been annoyed by a spoiler? Even something as simple as someone else telling you there's a great twist. Not really, to be honest. I don't even remember a book being spoiled for me. Yeah, no, I don't care that much. The first reason being that I have a terrible memory, so if I'm not currently reading the book or not planning on reading it right away, then I will very likely have forgotten what the spoiler was. I think the only scenario would be if I'm currently reading something and someone tells me while I'm reading what's gonna happen, then yes, I would be a bit pissed. Other than that, not really. Again, I think there are other ways for me to enjoy the book, even if I know what the twist might be or expecting something to happen. So that can be some good character development or beautiful writing. And even for parts of the plot that might be spoiled, I can still look at them from a writer's perspective and try to learn how the story was constructed. So for me, there are many ways to enjoy the story, and the plot is not the only one. The next question is, have you ever been annoyed by something you've discovered in a little free library, a book sale, or a used bookstore? Tell us what you found and why it was annoying. The little free libraries in France are not really good from my experience. I don't know how they are in other countries, but usually what you would find in France are just like very old books that no one really wants. I once found like an old Windows manual, so my expectations are already very low. And if I find a book that I'm interested in, then that's a big win and I get very excited. So it's usually more good surprises than bad ones. I remember once finding an old classic book and inside it were dried 4-leaf clovers, so kind of good luck charms. I thought that was really lovely. Question number 4. When it comes to short story collections, are you annoyed if there's a novella in the middle of the collection? Not really, but for the simple reason that I don't really read short story collections. I guess if I were, I would probably be looking for something short, so I might be annoyed if there's like a long story in there, like 100 pages. But I think I would also kind of look ahead and look at the size of the stories and check like how long is the next story I'm gonna read. So I think it's all a matter of expectations. And because I would check before starting the story, I don't think I would be surprised. So if I don't want to read like 100 pages story, then I would just skip it or read something else. The next question is, Deckled edges, beautiful or annoying? So I didn't even know what deckled edges were before looking into this tag, but it's basically when a book has like old-fashioned, rough, irregular edges. To be honest, it's not very common in France. I don't think I have that many books with deckled edges, but I don't really mind. And especially if it's an old edition, I really don't mind. I think it just gives a nice charm to the book. Question number 6. Other people's annotation in a used book or library book. Annoying, or are you okay with it? In secondhand books, I actually love it. I think it's really fun to get a sneak peek into what the previous owner thought of the book. I might glean some cool insight that I didn't think of, things like that. I just find it very fascinating. So I do really enjoy that. But it's not very common again. Like in France, I think secondhand bookshops would usually not accept books with marginalia and notes in them. So it's very rare that I would find such a book. And I think if you don't like it, then you don't have to buy the book. So why be annoyed by it? When it comes to library book though, I think that's a completely different story, and then I would be very annoyed because you don't own a library book. You just borrowed it from the library with the expectations to return it and for other people to read it. So I think it's just very disrespectful to be writing notes on a library book, and I would be quite annoyed with that. Question number 7. If there's a series or collection of certain kinds of books, like an imprint, and changes are made, are you annoyed or okay with it? So my understanding of this question from Kelly's video is about kind of the design of the books. So if you have a series and the design changes between books, would you find that annoying? For me, yes, that would be annoying. I'm kind of shallow. I do judge books by the cover, and I might choose a specific edition to get the covers that I find the prettiest. I do love books for their content, but to be honest, I also love books for the aesthetics. I like books that are aesthetically pleasing and that will have a nice look on my shelves, even though my shelves are currently very messy. So if I invest in a collection, then I would want it to be consistent throughout. And so if the design changes in the middle, then yeah, I will be a bit disappointed. I wouldn't lose sleep over it, but I would find that slightly annoying. Question number 8. Do the decisions of characters in a novel ever annoy you? Share the book and what decisions you found annoying. I would definitely be annoyed if the decision comes from bad writing or lazy writing. I mean, the kind of example that comes to mind mainly for me is like the typical horror movie decision when the characters decide to make groups of one and just go each in different directions, which is very obviously gonna get them killed. Then that I find annoying. Other than that, I wouldn't really be annoyed. I might disagree with a character's decision, but I'm also reading to understand other points of view, so I'm fine with that. Number 9. Are you ever annoyed by how someone organizes their books? What do you find annoying? No, there's nothing I find annoying there, and I don't see why I would. You do you, and do what works for you. I really don't care. As a matter of fact, I tried organizing my books in many different ways, and I still haven't found one that really clicks or that I can stick with for a long time. So I tried alphabetical order by title, by author. I tried organizing by publishing house. I tried the very lovely trend of organizing by colors. At some point, I also separated my books between the ones that I had read and the one that I hadn't read yet. And at the moment, they're loosely organized by theme. At some point, I didn't even have any system, but I still managed to have some kind of geographical understanding of my bookcase. And I remember living abroad and my mum wanted to borrow a book from me, and I was guiding her on the phone, telling her, okay, for this book you should look on this bookcase, this shelf, and then she would find the book. And I had, again, the books were not organized in any logical way, but I just had that general physical feeling of where the book was. And I'm sure that would probably drive a lot of people nuts. So I don't judge how you organize your books. Don't judge how I organize mine. There's something for everyone, I think. And I do actually find it very interesting and fascinating how people organizing their books. And Also visiting a lot of different bookshops, I love to see how different booksellers will organize their stock in different ways. For example, there was this travel bookshop in the north of France that had very funny categories. So most of the books were organized by countries, but there were some quirky subcategories as well. So one category was like countries in Stan, meaning like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, that kind of things, because it didn't had many from those countries and they all kind of blended them together. Another one was grimoires for like very old looking books. That was really cool. So it's definitely something that I find very interesting, and I'm always curious to discover new ways of organizing books. Question number 10. Share something bookish that you find annoying. One thing that happened to me recently that I found very annoying and frustrating was that I pre-ordered a book a month before it came out. You hear so much about how pre-ordering a book helps authors and helps publishers know how many copies they should print and all of that. So I was very happy to do that and support that author. But then the release date came and the book was out of stock everywhere, which I mean, great for the author. It's gonna be a massive bestseller, so amazing for them. The thing though is that even though I pre-ordered a month before, there was no copy for me. And after a few days, I received a notification that my book was expected to arrive between the end of May and mid-September. I ordered beginning of February for a book that was released at the beginning of March. So yeah, I was not happy about that. In the end, I cancelled the order. It was for the hardback, and the paperback was released just a couple of days later for some reason. Don't really understand the logic, but that's how it went. I got my book. It was not the edition that I wanted, so I'm a bit disappointed, but I really want to read the book. I still very much enjoy the work from this author, and also I committed to buddy read that book with a couple of colleagues, so I needed a copy fairly quick anyway. So in the end, it was not a massive issue. I still got the book, but it just feels like a very bad way to treat readers who do try to support authors and pre-order early and all of that. So yeah, the whole experience was quite frustrating. And finally, the last part is to obviously tag other people. So I would love to see the answers from those YouTubers. Matilda from Matilda the Book Dragon, Meekela from Meekela Reads, Julia from The Cozy Chaotic, and finally Lisa from the Unhinged Women Book Club. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!